Gemarah in Eruvin Daf Hey. Today's shir should be a schos for Shlema for you the Meir ben Yakira Menu ben Figel Chaim Ram Chanita Chaim ben Zer Shlomus Vib ben Rizlatel Zar Bas Knendel Ita Basim Bas Chai Ser Yus Chaim Zar Hasna Yusil ben Mindel is a person who's Chevrolet Tinik ben Chai Zel Sar Shlomus Bas Naami Vashav Figel Vashir Chana Rafal David ben Ita Riva Shoshana Tova Bas Esther B'Ster Shachali Yisrael. Just a big thank you to all those that reached out. Encourage the new setup, and Mirz Hashem, this should help us tremendously as we go through Eiruvin and try to work with all the pictures. So again, we pick it up from Daladam and Beis, as again, anyone who's listening onto the audio will try to explain all the pictures in words, but again, anyone who's looking at your screens, you'll see in front of you the picture of the Gemarah and Mirz Hashem, the pictures when we need them. Says the Gemarah, Daladam and Beis, we started this yesterday, we'll just pick up from here again. The Gemarah on the bottom of 6 lines from the bottom, the Gemarah says, so again, we're at the end of this mavoi, this three-walled cul-de-sac dead end. We'll see more pictures of this today as we go along. And we have this kair, this horizontal beam that permits you to carry inside this mavoi. And it's above 20 amos. So the Mishnah said, you can't do it. What do you have to do? You have to be memayid, and you have to lower that beam. So ask the Gemarah today, kama memayid, how much you have to lower it? Kama mayit, says the Gemarah. What's the question? Kama the zarchle. You have to mayit as much as you need. If it's 23 amos high, then you have to be mayit. You have to lower it 3 amos. What's your question? Says the Gemarah, the width, when you're lowering the beam, the width, how much you have to do it. So over here, I'm sorry, one more time. Over here, you see in front of you, this is a picture of the beam when it's above 20 amos. So you see over here that you're being mamayid, it is this platform that you're building on the floor. So the Gemara's question here is, how big does this platform have to be that you are building? So says the Gemarah, Rav Yosef Amar, 3 lines to the bottom, tefach, it has to be a tefach wide. Abaya Amar, Abaya says, no, Arba, it has to be 4 tvachim wide. So says the Gemarah, what exactly is this machlekes? Again, Abaya said, Rav Yosef said, that is, you're building up the floor, you're building a little bit of a podium, so therefore the airspace between that podium and the kaira is going to be 20 amos or less. So Abaya says that has to be a tefach, Abaya says that has to be 4 tvachim, Rav Yosef says that has to be 1. Says the Gemarah, what's the machlekes? 2 lines to the bottom. Let's say that the following is the machlekes. The man damar tefach, according to man damar, that says that has to be a tefach, Rav Yosef, Kosavar, he holds, he holds that you're allowed to work, you're allowed to use under the kaira, literally. Meaning, you're allowed to carry under the kaira. When you're walking out of that mavoi and you get to that kaira area, you get to this area, says Rav Yosef, I'm sorry, keep on doing that, we'll get used to this up in a moment. Says Rav Yosef that this platform area, you're actually allowed to carry on the platform itself. And that is the reason why Rav Yosef says that a tefach will suffice. So says the Gemarah, moving along to Hayam and Aleph, Uman Da'amar, Ba'arba, according to the other Man Da'amar that says, Rabbi that says it's before Tvachim, he holds, Kasavar, he holds, you're not allowed to use underneath the Kaira. So let's just see the top Rashi over here. Rashi is going to give us a little bit of an explanation of exactly what's going on. Man Da'amar, Hayam and Aleph, top Rashi, Man Da'amar, Abba, Kasavar, Aslish, Tamish, Tachas, Kaira. According to the Mandarma, it says you need 4 tfachim, that this podium that you're building up, this platform, has to be 4 tfachim. Says Rashi, what's the reason? So Rashi explains, the chuda panimi, because the inside bit of the kaira, yoiri v'saisim, goes down and closes off that area. And the width of the beam, is considered outside. And therefore, you're not allowed to carry underneath it. Again, we have this beam on the roof. So you're allowed to carry, that allows you to carry inside the mavui. So says this man Damar, are you allowed to carry all the way to the edge of the mavui under the beam? Says this man Damar, no. You know why? Because the inside edge is that if it goes down, it creates a wall, a barrier, and therefore you can only carry it to that area. And therefore, Rashi explains, those who are carrying the mavui in lem heker b'kaira, they don't have a heker, so they're going to go up until that area. So they don't have any kaira because you're not going to carry anywhere. Sharei ben namachin helkach, because for them it's higher. They are lower. Helkach. Therefore, this area that you're building up on the floor, again, this area has to be what? This area has to be a larger area, has to be 4 tfachim in order to make it recognizable that everyone remembers that you're not allowed to carry outside the mavui. That is that man damar. Says the Gemarah, No, that's not true. Everyone really agrees, 3 lines down, Aim and Aleph. Everyone agrees that you're allowed to carry underneath the kaira. This is the machlekes. Mar savar kaira misham heker. Umar savar kaira misham mechitza. Something that we've been discussing all the way back to the Gemarah and Shabbos, trying to figure out what is the purpose of this kaira. What is the purpose of this horizontal beam? Is it because of a heker, that it's just to remind you that you're not allowed to walk outside, or is it because of a mechitza? So which mandamar is which? So if you hold that it's as a heker, then it's going to suffice to have 1 tefach on the floor, because you just have to have an area to remind you that you're not allowed to carry outside. If you hold that it's a mechitza, that you hold that it's as if it goes down, then you have to have a sufficient area in order to create an area which is going to be big enough that could be called a rishos, something that we're going to see more of today. And of course, the minimum is going to be 4 tefachim. Says the Gemarah, that's the first teretz. Everyone holds kair misham heker. Really, everyone agrees that the purpose of the kaira, this is really the halach lamaisa, the purpose of this horizontal beam to permit carrying in the mavui is a heker, as a reminder. The machlekes that we have over here is the heker on the bottom. Does it have to be the same heker as the heker on top? Demar savar amrinon heker shal maila mata heker shal mal. This mandamar holds that just like on top it has to only be a tefach, so too on the floor it's a face with a tefach. Umar savar, and the other mandamar holds loy amrinon heker shal mal heker shal mata. We do not say that the heker of the bottom is like the heker on top, and therefore that is the reason why you're going to need more, and that is the reason why according to that Manda Amar, you're going to need 4 tefachim. So again, the second teretz is that they're arguing about a different point. What are they arguing about? They're arguing about how big does the heker need to be? Does the heker have to be a full 4 tefachim, or no? Does the heker suffice with the same size heker as what's going on at the bottom? Meaning, just like on top. Just like on top it suffices with 1 tefach, so too it'll suffice with 1 tefach. Or do we say no, that it has to be the same size, that therefore, or does it have to be larger, has to be a full 4 tefachim? Let's continue with the Gemarah. Says the Gemarah, a third teretz. Viba Yisema, a third teretz. The Kuli Alma, everyone holds. Amrinon heker shel mata, heker shel maila. Everyone agrees that the heker has to be the same size, meaning everyone agrees that it has to be 1 tefach. And rather, what is the machlekes? What is the machlekes? The machlekes is it going to wear away? Is it going to get eroded? Meaning, everyone agrees really 1 tefach is enough. And therefore, if you have 1 tefach on the floor, that's going to suffice to allow you to carry. The problem is, over time, people are going to keep on walking on this tefach on the floor, and over time, it's going to get worn down, and maybe it's going to come a point that's going to be less than a tefach, and therefore, according to the Amman Amar, what are you going to need? That's the reason why, according to the Amman Amar, you need to have more, and that's what you need to have 4 tefachim. Let's continue moving along with the next Gemarah. We're only at the 2 dots. Apologies over here. We're having technical difficulties. Hopefully this should all be good in 1 moment. Says the Gemarah. Hayu pachos me'asara. Now we have the opposite case. It is lower than 10 tefachim, v'chakak boy lashlima, and you're digging down in order to be mashlimit. Here you have, it is pachos, you see that the mavui, that the beam is too low down. It's not tall enough. And therefore, what do you have to do when it's not tall enough? You got to dig down in order to make it tall enough. So now the question over here is the same exact question the Gemarah is going to ask. How far down do you have to dig? So says the Gemarah, Hayuba, 2 dots. And you're digging down to be mashlamit in order to be 10 tefachim, la asara to 10. Kama chaykik, how much you have to din down? So the Gemarah has the same answer. Kama chaykik, kama detzarech, as much as you need. Kama detzarech le. Says Gemarah, say no. Elo moshchay b'kama. How far deep in do you have to dig it down? Again, we know that you have to dig it down in order for it to be 10 tefachim. The question over here is how deep into the Rishus Harabim how deep into the Mavui do you have to dig in? So says the Gemarah. Rav Yosef Amar, we have a machlekes over here. Rav Yosef Amar b'dalid, Abaye Amar ba'arba amos. We have a machlokes, Rav Yosef and Abaye, whether that's before tfachim or 4 amos. Again, just in case anyone got a little lost. What's our question? Our question is that you have this kaira as you exit the mavui, and this kaira is too short. It's not 10 tfachim. So the question of the Gemarah is, you're going to dig down over here. How far deep into the mavui do you have to dig down? So it says the Gemarah, it's a machlekes, Rav Yosef and Abaye. Rav Yosef said it's dalid tfachim, Abaye said it's dalid amos. Says the Gemarah, lema b'Rav Ami v'Rav Asi kamiflati. Maybe really what Abaye and Rav Yosef are arguing about is machlekes Abaye, Rav Ami, and Rav Asi. The idmar that we learned, mavui shenifratz mitzivdai kalapei roishay. You have a mavui that was busted open towards the head of the mavui. And what's going on over here? So again, we'll open the picture and then we will explain it for anyone who doesn't see the picture. As you're going out of the mavui towards the end, the wall breaks open. And that wall essentially could be considered another entrance maybe, and it goes into Rishus Harabim. So does that invalidate your mavui? Again, you're going into your mavui, you have your car on top of you, and then you're also going to have on the side, instead of having a normal wall, like a normal mavui, a normal cul-de-sac, rather what are you going to have? It's busted open on that side. So says the Gemarah, this is a machlekes Rav Ami and Rav Asi. Ditmar, mavui shnifratz mitzidei klape roishay, towards the head. Itmar, mishmei Rav Ami v'Rav Asi. Im yesham pas dalid, if the little piece that is left over is dalid wide, it's a pas dalid, then matir b'pirtza arasara, then it's good if the hole that was opened up is until 10 tfachim. V'im lav, and if the pas that is left over is not dalid tfachim, then mishloisha matir. If the opening is 3 tfachim, then it's going to be okay. Why is it going to be okay? Of course, we know 3 tfachim, that is called love. Shloisha. But if the space is going to be 3 tfachim, then it's not going to be mutter. Again, here you have a picture. You can see a little bit better over here. Again, all these pictures, this is from Art School, this is from Shas Lublin, Mavur, Kulalash, and all the different picture books. So over here, you see in the picture that if this pirza, if this opening is 10 tfachim, then it depends whether this piece stuck over is going to be 4 tfachim. If it's going to be 4 tfachim, then it's going to be okay. If it's not going to be 4 tfachim, then it depends. If the hole over here is less than 3, then it's going to be fine, because anything less than 3 we've used if it's closed up. If it's going to be more than 3, then it's not going to be fine. Why not? Because then it's going to be considered an opening. We have one more picture over here. In case it's not perfectly clear, you see over here that when it's less than 3, then if the opening is less than 3 as well, then we view like it's closed. So that is the case over here. So now what does this have to do with us? Let's see. It says the Gemarah. It's one more time. If it's a pastel and matir b'ertzad asara, vim la pachs mishleisha matir shleisha inay matir. So now, what does that have to do with us? Li Rav Yosef islay diravami. Le Abaye lesle diravami. So the machlokes Rav Yosef and Rav Ami is going to come out to be the same machlokes that we're discussing, Abaye and Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef said, Rav Yosef and Rav Yosef, and I guess a little complicated. Rav Ami, or Abaye said you need to have 4 amos. Abaye islay lesle diravami. Abaye does not hold of Rav Ami. What did Rav Ami say? Rav Ami said that if you have this piece of wall that is less than 4 tfachim, that it's 4 tfachim I should say, then it's considered a reshus b'fnei atzmai, and then that entrance area to the mavui, then this entrance area to the mavui is considered its own entrance, and then it's going to be fine as long as the opening is until 10, because you have this whole area is considered its own reshus, and therefore that's where we see that 4 tfachim is going to be considered its own rishos. So Abaye lesle Rav Ami. Abaye does not agree, and that's why Abaye holds that what you need a 4 amos. According to Rav Yosef, he holds that if you have 4 tfachim, it suffices. Why? Because he holds just like Rav Ami holds. And once you have 4 tfachim, then it's considered a rishos b'fnei atzmai, and then it could be allow that mavui to continue carrying in the mavui as long as the opening is until 10. Once it's 10, then it's if it's not there, and then you lost the whole wall entirely. But so Rav Yosef holds a Rav Ami, and Abaye doesn't hold Rav Ami. So the Gemarah wants to say the machlokes Abaye and Rav Yosef is the same machlokes Rav Yosef and Rav Ami and Rav Asi. Amlach Abaye comes along and Abaye says no. Amlach Abaye hasam soif mavoi hachat chilos mavoi. We're holding about halfway down the Amud, the first one on the line is Hasam, about 17 lines on the bottom. Says Abaye, Hasam over there, it's Soif Mavui. It's at the end of the Mavi. That's why Rav Yosef required you to have 4 Tfachim left over to be its own Rishas. Hacha by us, it's Tchilas Mavui. And therefore says Abaye, in order to create the Mavui, meaning over there was a Mavui, and you were allowed to carry. Then what happened? Then there was an issue, there was a hole in the wall. So that's what Rav Yosef said, is then if you have 4 Tfachim, it suffices to be a Rishas. But says Abaye, by us, that's not true. Because says Abaye, by us, you're creating the Mavi for the first place to be allowing you to carry, and that's why the wall that you need left over is for Amos. Ika arba Amos in Eloi. Says Abaye, and that's the reason why by us you need 4 Amos. Amar Abaye mina amidallah. Where do I know this from? Where do I know this fact that you need to have 4 Amos? The Tani we learned in a brisa. Ein mavui niter belechi v'kayrat sheyehu batim v'chatzirais psuchim l'teicha. A din about a mavui. The din that we've been discussing since the beginning of the parak. This din that you have a mavui that you're allowed to carry if you have a lechi or kayr at the entrance, says the Gemarah right now, that is only if you have batim, houses, v'chatzirais, opened into it. Basically, to make very simply, what's going on over here is, this is a 3D picture, a beautiful 3D picture, courtesy of Art Schools. You see over here that in this picture, you see that you have these houses which open up. These are the houses which open up into Chatziris, which open up into the Mavui. So says the Gemarah, that is when a lech and a kayr works. Only this arrangement, 2 houses into a Chatzir. This is something that's going to be discussed later in the Masechta. Something we actually had in Masechta Shabbos. That you need houses into Chatzir into Mavui. That's when it allows a lechi or a kayr. So says again, we're in the middle of Abaye. So it's explaining where he got his din from. So says Abaye, we have a problem, a fundamental issue, that if the opening that we're discussing is only 4 tfachim, then how is it possible to have 2 doorways opening into it? As the Gemarah here, again, we'll explain in a moment. You make the doorway in the middle wall. A mavui by definition has to have it's longer than it's wider. And here that could be longer and it's wider. So what is that? Is the reason why Abaye said it has to be 4 amis. Again, we'll open the picture and we'll try to put it into words. As you see over here, the problem is that if you have this small little mavui, how you can have doorways open up into? Because you need to have 2 doorways open into it. The minimum size of a doorway is, of course, 4 tefachim. So if a 4 tefach doorway is opening into it, it has to be longer than 4 tefachim. It's not possible. So it says Abaye, 4 tefachim is not going to suffice. So the Gemarah says maybe the doorway will be in the middle, as you see over here in this picture. Maybe you'll have a doorway in the middle, and therefore you can have it opening into the mavui. Says the Gemarah, you can't do that. Why can't you do that? Because then it's going to be the wrong way. A mavui has to be long. A mavui can't be wide. A mavui has to be longer than wider. And if it's going to be this way, it's going to be wider than longer. Says the Gemarah. For Rav Yosef, so what's Rav Yosef going to answer? That's why Abaye holds you need 4 amis. What's Rav Yosef going to answer? For Rav Yosef, he's going to answer the Pesach le bekeren zavis. That the case is that you had it as a keren zavis, you had it as a diagonal. First of all, here's another beautiful picture, another 3D picture to show what we're talking about. If it was open up in the middle over here, then you see that's where you're going to have the 2 doorways. That's the case where Abaye said it's not going to work. So he answers the Gemarah, what's the case? According to Rav Yosef, he's going to learn that here's that doorway and it's on a diagonal. And of course, anytime you have a diagonal, then you could potentially have 4 tefachim and on a diagonal, and therefore the length will be even longer because of course the diagonal is longer, the length is longer than the diagonal. That is how Rav Yosef is going to learn. Amar Abaye, mina aminallah, where do I know my din? We have a lechi that's coming out of the wall of the mavui. If it's less than 4 amas, again, we'll show a picture what this means. Basically, you have the wall where the opening to the mavui into Rosh Hashanah is. You have an extra wall sticking out into there. So maybe that wall could function as a lechi. That's what the Gemarah is saying. So can that wall function as a lechi? So lechi abaylim midayvid shal mavui, it's sticking out of the wall of the mavui. Pachas mi'arba amayis, if it's less than 4 amayis, nidain misham lechi. then it has the din of a lechi. You don't need another lechi. If the wall sticking out is a small little wall, then that small little wall is basically a lechi. A lechi is a vertical beam. It's basically a vertical beam, and therefore it's going to allow you to carry it. Dalit amos, but if the wall is dalit amos, then no. Need the mishamavui, then it's because the din of the mavui. V'sarach lechi acher latirai, and you need another lechi to permit carrying it. And that's the reason why you see Abayi says, you see Dalit Amis. We're not going to really explain this because this is going to be, the Gemarah is going to say this again as we flip on to Amr base. So let's just take it for a moment. This Abayi says that you see Dalit Amis, that if it's Dalit Amis, that's where the minimum size of this Mavoi is. That's what Abayi says, Dalit Amis. Rav Yosef says no. When you want to take it out of being a lechi, that's when it has to be 4 amos. However, says Rav Yosef, no, it's a fundamental difference. When you want to say, is this piece of a wall a lechi or a mavui? Is this piece of a wall a hacker, or is it just a regular part of the wall? So then 4 amos is what's going to be the deciding factor. But you want to know what's the minimum size of a lechi? Says Rav Yosef, it could be even 4 tfachim. So I know that this last case was a little bit confusing. So the Gemarah now is going to go into it again. 2 lines at the bottom. Kufa says the Gemarah, this lechi is sticking out of the wall of the mavui. Moving along to, hey, Amid Beis, first we'll read it, then we'll explain. If it's less than 4 amos, then nidai misham lechi. You don't need another lechi. Dalit amos need the misham avui. So the Gemarah asks, let's just say the question, oisa lechi, this additional lechi that we're talking about, where are you placing it? Okay, so now let's explain. Here we have, this is the opening of the mavui into Shus Rabbim, as you see in front of you, and you see over here that what's going on over here, this is the protruding lechi. This is the wall that's sticking out a little bit. So the Gemarah says if this area is too big, then you need another lechi. As you see over here, you need another lechi lahatirai. So the Gemarah wants to know this additional lechi, where do you place this lechi? So let's read it in the Gemarah, and then we have a bunch more nice pictures. Says the Gemarah, the 4 lines down, if you put it on the same side where the protrusion is, then it's just adding it on. What does that do for you? You put on the opposite side as the picture that you just saw said. Rav Huna Brei Yeshua Amar, he says no. Really, it could be even on the same side. But however, the matfi bay, the mavser bay, it has to be either a little shorter or a little taller. Rashi says a little skinnier or a little narrower. And then again, if we put in our brain that this whole point is a hecker, a reminder, you're about to walk out of the lechi, we understand this din very simply. So this wall, if it's a big wall, it's not a reminder, it just looks like a wall. If it's a small wall, then it's a reminder. If not, you have to add an lechi. Where should you do it on the opposite side? If there's no room of that, or says the Gemarah now, you can put it on the same side, it has to be recognizable. So again, a bunch of nice pictures over here. Here's where you see, if you're going to put it on the same side, it's a lechi gavaya, you make it taller in order to make it more recognizable. Or you see over here in this picture, a lechi namuch, you make it a little more narrower in order to make it recognizable. And Rashi, interestingly enough, Rashi speaks out another 2 variables. You can make it a little fatter, as you see over here, you can make it a little fatter, or Rashi says you can make it a little bit skinnier. You can see over here, lechi dak, you can make it a little bit skinnier. Again, the whole point being over here has to be a reminder, and that's how it's going to work. Says the Gemarah, Amar Rav Huna, Brei Rav Yeshua. Says Rav Huna, in the name of Rav Yeshua, we're about 8 lines down, Hayam and Beis. First one on the line is Dirav. This whole din that we just spoke about is only if the width of the mavui is 8 tfachim. Aval b'mavui shiva, but if the width is 7 tfachim, then it's allowed automatically. Meter ba'oimin meruba ala baretz. Then you're gonna have more oimid, you're gonna have more wall than open area. Very simple. If you have 7 tfachim and a 4 tefach wall, then it's gonna be more than the majority. And we know that anytime you have more than the majority is a basic rule. As the truth is, the Gemarah now is going to prove it, which the Rishonim really ask, why do you need to prove it? It's very interesting that the Gemarah finds you need to prove this din, because this is a din that we found. Whenever you have oimin meruba laparis, I believe we have this in Masechah Shabbos as well. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the picture over here, which I thought we have And at the moment I can't find it, so we're just going to continue. That anytime you have Aymin Meruba Laparetz, Baruch Hashem, here's the picture. Anytime you see over here, it's 7 Amois is entranceway, and anytime you have a 4 Amoy wall, then, I'm sorry if I said Tfachim before, anytime, that would be a very skinny mavi, anytime you have 4 Amois, then it's to be majority, and anytime you have majority, the halacha is, then it's viewed as if it's closed up, and that's how it's going to allow it all by itself. Let's read in the Gemarah, again, one more time. Amar Avuna Brei Devishula Amar and 8 lines down. Al B'mavi Shemayin Al B'mavi Shiva Niter Ba'aymin Meruba Laparetz. The Aymin is more Meruba Laparetz. There's more wall than there is opening, and that will allow it. Says the Gemarah of a Kalva Chaimer Mechatzer, and we learn this out from a Chatzer. Uma Chatzer, when it comes to the din of a Chatzer, She'ena Nitaris B'lechi V'Kaira. A Chatzer needs actual walls. Chatzer needs to be enclosed. You can't just have a lechi or a kaira horizontal or vertical beam to permit carrying in a Chatzer. Yet, Niter Ba'aymin Meruba Laparetz. Yet, it works out if any of the walls in your Chatzer are majority walls, even if they're big openings. If they're majority walls, that works. Mavoi She'niter B'lechi V'Kaira, and Edin She'niter Ba'aymin Meruba Laparetz. Certainly it should work. And again, a lot of the Rishonim are bothered by over here why the Gemarah has to bring this from a Kal V'Chaimer if this is something that we find all over. Says the Gemarah has a question. Malach Chatzer, how can you say that? Malach Chatzer, Shekein, excuse me, Pirtzasei be'eser. By a Chatzer, you're allowed to have a pirtz, you're allowed to have an opening up until 10 tfachim. Timer b'mavui, shepirtzasei b'arba. But by a mavui, you're not allowed to have an opening in the wall, you're not allowed to have a pirtz, you're not allowed to have a block open in the wall of 10 tfachim, you're allowed to have 4 tfachim. Says the Gemarah, K'sav Ravuna Brei Rav Yeshua, Ravuna Brei Rav Yeshua, mavui nami pirtzasei be'eser. He agrees that the mavui has 10 tfachim as well. Says the Gemarah, 1 second, a little bit of a name game going on over here, and this is really a little bit of a introduction to tomorrow's daf, where we're going to discuss this point extensively. Laman Kamrinan, who are we talking to? Rav Huna. For Rav Huna Pirtzasei B'dalet Tzvirlei. We know that Rav Huna doesn't hold that the pirtz can be 10 tfachim. He holds it can only be 4 tfachim. Answers the Gemarah, Rav Huna, Brei Rav Yeshua. He's the one that's coming along, and he's the one teaching that when we're discussing this additional wall at the entrance to the Mavui, if it's less than 8 tfachim, it's automatically going to be good, because you're going to have Aymin Meruba Laparetz. He's saying his own reasoning, and he learned it out from a Chatzer. So in as much as Rav Huna comes along and he holds that you need to have 10, you have up until it's not like a Chatzer, whereas Rav Huna B'Rav Yeshua holds it is like a Chatzer. Rav Ashi Amar Afilu Teima B'Mavui Shemaina Nami. Rav Ashi extends this thing. Even if the width is 8 amos, you still don't need an additional lachi. Why? Manashach, says Rav Ashi. If the wall that's left over is wide, then it's more wall than opening. And that's going to be the reason why it works. If the opening is bigger and therefore it doesn't work, then nidam misham lachi. Then view that piece as if it's a lachi. My amrit, what are you going to tell me? Meaning it to be a lachi, now to be less than 4 amos, and that's what we said up top in the amrit. Anytime it's less than 4 amos, it says din of a lachi. My amrit, what are you going to tell me? The shavi tavayu is exactly equal. Ki adadi havle savik devrei, and then it's going to be a savik derabanan, the savik derabanan lahakel. Therefore, it's going to be a savik derabanan lahakel. Let's just for one moment look at this picture one more time before we call it a day. This was the last Gemarah over here. Again, as you're exiting out of the Mavoi, you have this big opening. So first the Gemarah said it has to be Zayin Amos, 7 Amos. Why? Because that's when if you have the wall 4 Amos, it's going to be majority of 7. And then we learn out from a Chatzer. The second din came along and he said, no, even if it's 8 Amos, because even if it's 8 Amos, if it's 4 less than 4, then it has din of a lachi. And even if it's going to be exactly 4, then it's more than 4, then it's to be Aymin Meruba, more wall than opening. And maybe you're going to tell me it's smack in the middle, 50-50, then it's a Savik Derabanan, Lekula. We'll pick it up from here tomorrow.